Hello everyone, my name is ByeongYun in Yonsei University. Let's get started my presentation. Our problem in my presentation are in the Spartos Laser Physics book. This page is the index of contents. I chose problem 12 in chapter 7 and problem 4 in chapter 8. I will explain the detail in each page. From now on, I will proceed to explain the problems in chapter 7. This problem is related to the single longitudinal mode selection and asks about the echelon finesse and the reflectivity of the two echelon phase to ensure single mode operation. The reason for choosing this problem is due to the importance of the single mode. Using single mode laser, we can effectively use advanced technology such as optical communication, holographic laser process, and so on. So the key points related to this problem are two kinds of single mode and peripheral echelon as mode selective elements. First, single mode. There are two kinds of mode. One is transverse and the other is longitudinal mode. However, due to time constraint, I will only explain longitudinal mode. A laser that produces multiple longitudinal modes has a limited coherence. Different wavelengths cannot stay in phase over extended distance. Applications such as holography, which demand excellent coherence, benefit from using a single longitudinal mode laser. For some laser type with a narrow gain bandwidth, single mode output is achieved with a very short resonant cavity. Generally, a filtering element that preferentially pass only one mode is inserted into the cavity. The most common type of filter is called an echelon. The second key point is peripheral echelon as mode selective element. The varying transmission function of an echelon is caused by interference between the multiple reflection of light between the two reflecting surfaces. Constructive interference occurs if the transmitted beams are in phase, and this corresponds to a high transmission peak of the echelon. If the transmitted beams are out of phase, destructive interference occurs and this corresponds to a transmission minimum. Whether the multiply reflect beam are in phase or not depends on the wavelength of the light, the angle the light travels through the echelon, the thickness of the echelon, and the refractive index of the material between the reflecting surface. The video on the right is about echelon. Only one variable is thickness. Depending on the thickness, you can see that the finesse is different. And this additional information part is actually what I did in my previous presentation. However, I added this page because important formula were expressed to solve this problem. First is free spectral range. Considering the speed and frequency of light, the wavelengths and the condition under which a standing wave can be made between two mirrors, we can get the define of free spectral range. Second is finesse. Finesse is defined by following formula and indicate how narrow the transmission peak is compared to the free spectral range. Using this, we can define second definition of finesse. As reflectivity increases, finesse is increased, or we can say resolving power is improved. Now let's solve the problem. Assume that the transmission peak of the peripheral echelon is made coincident with the central mode. The two adjacent longitudinal modes which are frequency spaced by delta nu is C over 2L. Single longitudinal mode operation is ensured to provide that all of resonance longitudinal mode experience a loss larger than the gain. If R1 and R2 are the same as R, we can summarize the TFP simply as follows. Now you can simply obtain the finesse and reflectivity by substituting the values given. Now I will explain the problem in chapter 8. This problem is related to the Q-switching and acousto-optic modulator. The reason for choosing this problem is due to the importance of the Q-switching. Using Q-switching, we can produce a pulsed output beam and can do time-resolved scientific experiment and best range of manufacturing process. First key point is Q switching. In order to store many atoms in an upper level, the flow to a lower level must first be limited. The stimulated emission must be prevented by placing an attenuator in the cavity to stop light from traveling back and forth. In this case, for a radiative transition, the only decay to a lower level is due to spontaneous emission. When the pumping system supplies more atoms per second than lost energy by spontaneous emission, the population in the upper level can become very large. After a certain time, the energy losses in the cavity are suddenly reduced so that laser oscillation becomes possible. As there is a very large population in the upper level, simulated emission becomes very probable and the laser is suddenly triggered. The flow due to stimulated emission is much greater than the other flows, although atoms stored in the upper level fall sharply, emitting stimulated photons. Thus, the laser cavity fills with stimulated photons at the same time as the upper level empties. Eventually, the upper level is completely empty. There is no further stimulated emission and the cavity will also empty due to the losses created by the output mirror. This process gives rise to a dramatic variation in the number of photons. The net result is the emission of a short pulse of light via the output mirror. And the second key point is method of Q switching. There are several types of Q switch. However, due to time constraint, I will only explain acousto-optic Q switch this time. An acousto-optic modulator consists of a block of transparent optical material in which an ultrasonic wave is launched by a piezoelectric transducer bonded to one side of the block and driven by a radio frequency oscillator. With back reflection of the acoustic wave thus suppressed, only a traveling acoustic wave is present in the medium. The strain induced by the ultrasonic wave results in local changes of the material refractive index through the photoelastic effect. This periodic change of refractive index acts then as a phase grating with period equal to the acoustic wavelength, amplitude proportional to the sound amplitude, and which is traveling at the sound velocity in the medium. Its effect is to diffract a fraction of the incident beam out of the incident beam direction. Thus, if an acousto-optic cell is inserted in a laser cavity, an additional loss will be present due to beam diffraction, while the driving voltage to the transducer is applied. If the driving voltage is high enough, this additional loss will be sufficient to prevent the laser from oscillating. The laser is then returned to its high Q condition by switching off the transducer voltage. And now let's solve the problem. In my case, the following data are available: input pump power, threshold pump power, time between consecutive pulses, and decay time. In step 1, using the given value, we obtain F star and X. F star means the normalized pulses repetition rate, and X is the amount by which the CW pump exceeds its threshold value. And using this again, we can finally get Ni over Np. In step 2, eta E is 0.76 to reference the energy utilization graph. In step 3, now I have all the value need to calculate and just substitute them for the formula to get the result. So output pulse energy is 18 millijoule and average power is 180 watt. In this presentation, I tried to understand the full system and solve the problem from an engineering point of view. Thank you for listening my presentation.